starts now.
Line of storms pushing into central Georgia as we speak. The timing for any potential severe weather threat is coming up.
Plus severe weather. Good morning. You're taking a live look over Dublin at 5 a.m. on this Wednesday, January 25th. I'm Ashlyn Webb. Looks like we'll be seeing some nasty weather, so we're going to check in with Alex Forbes with a check on our forecast.
Yeah, good morning, Ashlyn. We are going to be talking about weather when we get into later on this morning. That is not nice to be out in, to put it mildly, across central Georgia. Looking live over downtown Dublin, that is. Temperature at 54, dew point of 46. But what's important here is the winds are coming out of the southeast at about 9, destabilizing our air just a little bit. 55 in Cochran, 54 in Eastman, 54 in Swainsboro, 51 in Gordon, and 48 the current number in Monticello. We check out the radar picture. We do have a few sprinkles out there, a couple of these heavy at times, but here comes this main line that's just out near the Alabama state line. That's going to continue to slide towards Georgia here in the next several hours or so. Notice once you get down towards the Montgomery area and down into the Florida Panhandle, you run into some lightning, so thunderstorms on the way to central Georgia. Our temperatures today going to steadily rise into the 60s, 65 or so by the noon hour. I've got a high temperature of 68 later on today. We'll have the storms this morning, but all day it is going to be windy. We have a wind advisory in effect that began at midnight and will run through midnight tonight. Winds out of the south-southwest 15 to 25 miles an hour. But here's the timing for the severe weather threat today. A very low tornado threat from now until about noon or so, and then we'll keep the gusty winds elevated just a little bit until about noon as well. So we'll talk much more about this level 2 coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Alex. We'll check in with you shortly. Powerful storm. Your time now at 5:07, and Alex, I know we saw showers on the way in this morning, but it looks like that is going to be much worse throughout the day.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about showers at least here for the next hour or two, and then that transitions to that line of storms that's going to be coming through central Georgia by the time we get into the mid-morning hours. Here's a live look over downtown right now. Temperatures across the area, they are in the 50s, 53 in Macon, but notice that dew point is at 51. In order to get storms, we're going to need that dew point to come up a little bit. Same with the temperatures, and the expectation is that is going to happen through the morning hours. We'll get a surge of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and that will set the stage for storms later on this morning. Winds out of the south-southeast at about 10 miles an hour. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Look at the temperature difference from Macon down to Cordele. It's 59 in Cordele, but it's 53 in Macon and 48 in Monticello. So this warmer air continuing to surge towards the north here over the next little bit. All ahead of this is the main line of storms coming through before too long. So some showers this morning, parts of Wilkinson County over towards Twiggs County. And then once you get back down into Johnson County, these are just a few sprinkles. The more potent line of storms is really to the west this morning, say from the Montgomery area down right along Interstate 65 or just to the east of it now. Numerous severe thunderstorm warnings that's continuing to lift towards the northeast here over the next little bit. So we're going to be watching that through the morning hours. The leading edge of that main line should be in far northwestern portions of central Georgia, say near Forsyth and Butler, within the next hour or so, and then the entire line pushing through central Georgia by the time we get through the mid-morning hours into the later morning hours. Here we are at about 11 a.m. Wrightsville, Dublin, Eastman getting in on some of this action here before that begins to move out. The good news in all of this, we will begin to clear out later this afternoon. I don't think the clearing is going to be quite as sharp as was what we were thinking yesterday. So we're not going to be looking at tons of sun by 1 p.m. We're still going to have clouds and a few sprinkles in and around central Georgia. But once we get later into the afternoon, we will get those breaks in the clouds and the last of the rain will be out of here. But regardless, the severe weather threat today will be coming to an end right around noon, 1 o'clock later on this afternoon. And then we will clear out and cool off later on tonight. So today, a level 2 severe weather day. The threat primarily for damaging winds. However, a brief spin-up tornado cannot be ruled out of the picture. With today's setup, you need only just a little bit of instability to get that spin-up tornado, because we have a ton of wind shear in the atmosphere. Basically, that means the wind is changing. The higher up you get in the atmosphere, you add just a little bit of instability there. And that's when you can get rotating storms. So we'll be watching for that. In terms of the threats, most of central Georgia and this 15% risk for damaging winds. However, when we look at the tornado risk, we're in a 2% risk. So that's the difference between the two. We have a 15% risk of, or 15% chance of seeing damaging winds, while a 2% chance of seeing a spin-up tornado. That's up to 5% once you head down to the south and east. So we're going to continue to watch it all. Again, the timing from now until about noon, 1 o'clock, the bigger threat for gusty winds, more so than the tornado threat today. Now, regardless of the storms, it is still going to be windy once the storms move through. Gusts 30 to 40 miles an hour will remain possible even on the backside of the line for all of central Georgia. This is a wind advisory that will go until midnight tonight. Then into tomorrow and into Friday, fairly nice weather across central Georgia. It's not until about Sunday or so where our next weather maker arrives, and that's going to be in the form of potentially some heavy rainfall Sunday afternoon and evening. The last of it getting out of here probably early Monday morning before we set the stage for another wet week next week. week. So morning storms today, a high temperature about 68, sunrise is at 7:33. That wind advisory is in effect until midnight. And then for tomorrow, 54, calling it partly cloudy. 53 and sunny on Friday, an overnight low 29, getting down potentially to 27 by the time we get to Saturday. And then here comes that rainy stretch beginning on Sunday with a 70% chance of rain there, 40% chance of rain on Monday, followed by a 60% chance of rain on Tuesday. Looking live over the Georgia National Fairgrounds this morning, a few showers in and around central Georgia, but that's going to translate to a lot more in a short period of time. We'll take an hour-by-hour look at future view and the line of storms moving in as we speak. Here we go on this Wednesday morning, looking live over the Georgia National Fairgrounds this morning. Some showers in and around central Georgia, but that's going to give way to storms before too long this morning. The main threat's going to be for gusty winds, but whatever we do see, we'll be clearing out by 1 p.m., quite honestly, at the latest later on this afternoon. Temperature of 53 in Macon, 54 in Warner Robins, but notice down to the south, we get a little closer to 60. I expect all of these temperatures to continue to rise with the southerly wind here in the next hour or two as the surge of Gulf moisture essentially continues to come up from the south. That's going to destabilize our atmosphere and allow for this severe weather potential as we head into the next few hours. Now, something else to note, we were talking yesterday morning about temperatures in the mid-20s. Here we are now at 5:19 in the morning. We're 25 degrees warmer in Macon and Warner Robins, 22 degrees warmer in Roberta, and 20 degrees warmer in Eatonton than this time yesterday. The reason for it, obviously, that southerly wind, and now here comes the storms in its wake. So we do have a few showers out there this morning. This is going to be on the Baldwin, Washington County line, a heavier downpour there. That's going to continue to lift towards the north. A few more showers once you get into Twigg, so heads up Wilkinson County. That will be in your neck of the woods before too long. But that main line is right on our doorstep. It's going to be moving into Upson County and Pike County, say within the next 45 minutes to an hour or so, with more storms extending from Interstate 65 down through the Florida Panhandle. Those will be the severe weather risk, if you will, as we head into the morning hours. We'll continue to watch for that here in the Weather Center. So hour by hour on Future View, here we go Wednesday at 5 a.m. where we are right now. By 7 a.m. the main line coming through Macon, Warner Robins, Unadilla. We'll see the timing on this. It might be closer to 8 or 9 o'clock, but regardless, it's going to continue to push down to the south and east, with the last of it getting out of here right around the noon, 1 o'clock hour. Now, as I alluded to earlier, even though the last of the storms will get out of here, I still think it's possible to see a few sprinkles behind this line later on this afternoon. So I don't think we're going to be completely dry. I don't think it's going to be sunny skies later on this afternoon, but we will get a few peaks of sunshine before all is said and done. So today translates to a level 2 severe weather risk, as you saw there, with threat primarily for damaging winds. 55 at the bus stop this morning with storms potentially by the time we get to that hour. 62 for the recess hour as we begin to clear out, and then headed home from school. We got about 68 for the temperature, and that will be our high for today. And even in the wake of the storms, we have this wind advisory in effect until about midnight. It is going to be windy through the duration of the day today before we get cooler tomorrow. 54 on Thursday, 53 on Friday with plenty of sun to go around. A great forecast for Friday and Saturday. Sunday would become overcast with a 70% chance of rain later in the day.
WMAZ Morning starts now.
A line of strong storms pushing into central Georgia as we speak. A level 2 severe weather threat this morning. Everything you need to know is coming up.
January 25th. I'm Ashlyn Webb. Caitlin and Wanye are off. Before we jump into top headlines, let's check in with meteorologist Alex Forbes. Alex, looks like we have some nasty weather ahead of us today.
Yeah, that's right. And it's nasty in the form of just not fun being in, because we're going to be having a lot of rain and wind, and the severe storm threat is there, but it's not going to be through the roof later on today. It's just going to be a gusty line of storms working their way through central Georgia. 53 the current number now in Macon. Winds out of the south southeast at 10, and that's important to note is that they're coming out of the south, which means we are continuing to warm. Now up to 60 in Cordele, 59 in Rochelle, 59 in Vidalia. All of these numbers going to continue to rise through the morning hours into the 60s, and that's going to just put enough instability in our atmosphere this morning to make a few of these storms potentially be on the stronger side. So here we go with the current radar picture. A few showers out near Baldwin, Hancock, Washington, parts of Wilkinson County this morning, but the main line is back towards Peachtree City, LaGrange, Columbus, and all of that continuing to slide towards the east. You run into some more storms once you get on the Alabama side of the state line, and then down into the southwestern portion or southeastern portions of Alabama. All of that continuing to lift towards central Georgia here in the next little bit. So here we go with the temperatures. This is kind of abnormal, right? We're going to continue to warm here for the next little bit, eventually to a high of 68. We'll talk much more about this and more details on that wind advisory coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Alex. Your time now, 5:39, and Alex, it looks like in the next hour or so, we're going to be seeing some change in the weather.
Right. The beginning of that line is going to begin to push into central Georgia. That means heavy rainfall, thunder, lightning as soon as an hour or two from Forsyth, Upson County, places up there. And then it's going to take from now until about 1 p.m. to get this line to move through all of central Georgia. So looking live over the Georgia National Fairgrounds, we are running into a few sprinkles out there across central Georgia this morning, but this is not the main event just yet. We've got warmer temperatures down to the south, 59 in Americus, 60 in Cordele, 59 in Rochelle. And what I want you to notice is the southerly wind here is going to continue to push this warmer air to the north. So we are already warming up through the day today. We're not going to be talking about, dropping 3 to 5 more degrees before the sun comes up. And that's important to note because that is helping making our air a little more unstable as we head into the morning hours. So here we go with the radar picture. Again, what we're seeing right now in central Georgia for the most part is sprinkles and maybe a heavy downpour in a few communities, but regardless, not the main event is my point here. Washington County, Hancock County down towards Wilkinson, all that continuing to lift towards the northeast. But here comes this main line as it begins to push into central Georgia. Severe thunderstorm warnings down to the south, some heavy rainfall moving into Upson, Taylor County. Now, generally speaking, areas to the north today, say Monroe over towards Jones, Baldwin, the severe weather threat is not too high up here. It's going to be areas down to the south where this level 2 is in place. So let's track out the details on that now on Future View. Here we go at 6 a.m. The line beginning to push through central Georgia. This is 8 a.m. So from Eatonton, Milledgeville, Warner Robins down to Cordele. It's this batch down to the south that we're really watching for the severe weather threat as that continues to scrape across the southern parts of our area, Eastman, Dublin, Vidalia. Here we are at 10 a.m. and then the last of it beginning to get out of here by the time we get to about 1, 2 o'clock later on this afternoon. And then we will begin to get the rain out of here later on this afternoon, but hanging on to the cloud cover across central Georgia for the most part as we head into the evening hours. And then that will give way to clear skies through the overnight hours and temperatures down into the 30s before all is said and done. So a level 2 severe weather day. And as I was alluding to, that level 2 line is really from Hancock down through Baldwin, Macon, Roberta, Butler, and areas to the south. So yes, it's beginning to rain up to the north. That's not where the severe weather potential is for today. It's going to be mainly down to the south. And to be quite honest with you, I really think the damaging wind threat is a little more significant today than the tornado threat. Now, how much are we talking? Well, this map shows you the chance of seeing it within 25 miles of 1 point. So this yellow here, indicative of a 15% chance of seeing a damaging wind gust within 25 miles of 1 point within this area. When we look at the tornado risk, this is down to 2%. So the damaging wind threat significantly higher today than the tornado threat. And if you're down near, say, southern Dooley over towards Wilcox, it does jump to 5% down there, but that's mainly going to be down to the south as well, down into southwest Georgia. So the timing on this, from now until about noon, a very low tornado threat and then a overall low damaging wind threat, but that is higher than the tornado threat here in central Georgia for this Wednesday. Also today, as if we needed anything else, the wind is going to be kicking through the day today, regardless of the storms around. So even as the back edge of the rain pulls through, we will have a wind advisory in effect until midnight tonight. This is for gusts potentially as strong as 30 to 40 miles an hour across central Georgia, and that is north, south, east, west, Eatonton down to Abbeville, Vidalia over to Thomaston through the day today. Once we get through today, it is smooth sailing for the rest of the week. We don't get rain in here again until we get to about Sunday or so, and that will come late in the day on Sunday. So as for today, a high temperature right around 68, winds out of the southwest 15 to 25. That wind advisory is in effect. And then once we get into the next few days, we'll begin to clear out before the rain builds back in on Sunday. A 70% chance of rain there, 40% for Monday, 60% on Tuesday. So the writing on the wall to begin a rainy stretch by the time we get to the latter part of the weekend. Ashley?
Thanks.
Continuing to watch the radar this morning, a line of storms pushing into central Georgia. You just saw that tornado watch expand down to the south. I think we'll be okay on that front in terms of a tornado watch, but the damaging wind threat is going to be the primary thing we'll be watching through the morning hours, clearing out by about 1 p.m. and then smooth sailing through the rest of the day. In terms of the rainfall, the cloud cover will still be around, but then we'll begin to get that out of here by the end of the week before a 70% chance of rain returns by Sunday.
Wow. Well, we're coming up on the 6 o'clock hour. More details on your top stories and a look at today's forecast is still ahead. Stay with us.